How did Nickelback come to be used?
Oh my god. Why do you want me to watch a Nickelback video? Alright. My wife said she wants to watch it, so.
Universally hated by everyone. Well, the hatred began with something completely out of Nickelback's control and was rather related to the opinion held by another popular public figure.
My wife loves Nickelback, and so does my wife's my mother-in-law.
In 2003, approximately 8 years after Nickelback was created, a comedian by the name of Brian Posehn would appear on a Comedy Central talk show titled A Tough Crowd, during which he would make a joke about bad music making people violent, before using Nickelback as an example.
Bad music makes people violent. Like Nickelback makes me want to kill Nickelback.
At the time, the other hosts on the show didn't even know who Nickelback was, yet Brian Posehn continued to reassure them with conviction that the band was truly horrible.
I'm so old, I don't even know who Nickelback is.
I'll have to agree with Nick.
They're not good. They're horrible. Just trust me.
Now, you'd probably assume that this one little comment wasn't enough to make the entire world hate Nickelback, right?
How did you know, Sunny? Sunny Delight version 2?
Well,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Problem was, instead of this comment being a small thing in a relatively obscure episode on Comedy Central, the joke was actually featured in the station's main commercial, which was broadcast to millions for a period of
You guys remember commercials? That's all real old school.
Over 6 months. With it, the hatred for Nickelback began to go viral, which was outlined by one user on Reddit who stated, the joke was on every Tough Crowd promo and nearly all the time. After hearing this joke during every promo for a couple of weeks, I began to hear everyone at my middle school begin to mock Nickelback mercilessly. The worthwhile part of that
They're really not that bad.
repetitive commercial was of course the punchline, listening to Nickelback makes me want to kill Nickelback. The whisper down the lane aspect of the joke telling allowed the origin to slowly disappear until even people unfamiliar with modern music knew there was something detestable about Nickelback. Internet meme culture would then facilitate the hatred in the late noughties and early 2010s.
The only thing I want to hear right now is the sweet sound of this Nickelback CD cracking as I drive over it repeatedly.
With articles such as the 14 most brutal Nickelback memes of all time.
I mean, American Dad's kind of mid, honestly. I know that's going to be a very contested take, but it's true.
Featuring bangers such as Still a Better Band Than Nickelback, Parents Surprise Him with Concert Tickets, Nickelback, and due to a coal shortage, Santa will be giving all bad little boys and girls Nickelback CDs. In addition to this,
well, I guess my wife's a bad girl then. So you want, babe? Nickelback? I'll smack your ass with a fucking Nickelback CD and take it out of the package and cut you with it. Like a razor blade.
A company by the name of Orcs would develop a Chrome extension by the name of Nickelblock, never see Nickelback on the internet again, and by 2012 even Adam Sandler was jumping in on the hate train with a tweet reading, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, then have we found the perfect location for a Nickelback concert.
Bro, this is the origins of virtue signaling, okay? Nickelback's not that bad, guys, and everybody's jumping on top of them. This is where it starts.
It became kind of a trend and kind of, you know,
cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, it started to become sort of like
I feel terrible for these guys.
What Mike Kroger seemed to imply.
How many people do you think decided not to listen to Nickelback, even if they were like decent, just because of this joke? Like, imagine them. Like, they're not really for me. They're not really for me, but like I feel like they're not that bad. And then imagine like you, dude, like really think about like personalize the journey, right? We don't do that, like we do it for ourselves, but these guys probably started in some fucking garage band or something, working some bullshit jobs, and then they got famous and they were able to like really build their shit all the way up, and they got their one moment and blah blah blah, you know what I mean? They got pushed up there, and all of a sudden some asshole on Comedy Central makes a joke, and their entire trajectory is fucking completely halted.
Play in that clip was that much of the Nickelback hatred was spreading simply because other people hated Nickelback. And those other people who hated Nickelback hated them because someone else hated Nickelback before them. This whole phenomenon was outlined hilariously in a Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan episode.
It's the same reason everybody hates Nickelback.
Is Chad Kroger Nickelback? Oh, they're actually one of the most commercially successful Canadian rock bands. Chad Kroger is worth $80 million. Okay, well, I don't feel as bad anymore. Maybe the hate actually just fueled it more. People were like, "Oh, this guy," because you know what it is, dude. You guys ever have like a band or a song that you hate, and then all of a sudden you listen to it, and then you sit in your head, you know, that's every single TikTok song that I've ever heard in my life. Like I can't stop singing "It's About Damn Time," and what's funny is that it doesn't happen when the TikTok first happens. It's like maybe I hear it once, and then 3 weeks later, it's the only thing in my head for like a month. It's crazy, and it's only replaced by the new song, whatever other song is on there, you know, like Seabat, you know, that's the song that's been in my head lately.
Because the internet says so.
Nice.
Yet this still feels like too simple of an explanation. Why did Brian Posehn choose to rip on Nickelback in the first place?
Why didn't like Nickelback?
Didn't he choose a different band? Why was his conviction so strong that he attempted to convince the other hosts on the show of how bad Nickelback was?
Well, perhaps it was. He didn't really go that far. He made one joke. He made one joke. He didn't go that far.
Because he was being forced to listen to them against his will. In 2002, just a year prior to Brian Posehn making his viral comment about Nickelback being terrible, the band's most famous song, How You Remind Me, was crowned as the most played radio song of 2002, and by 2009, it was crowned as the most played radio song of the decade, having been spun on air over 1.2 million times. Just to give you an idea about how crazy that number is.
Wait, hold on.
Decade,
Okay.
been spun on air over 1.2 million times. Just to give you an idea about how crazy that number is, in 2002 there was never a given second on American radio that How You Remind Me wasn't being played on any one station.
In the United States, at the time that the album came out, they say that at any given second in those days, that song was in play. There was never a moment in that year when it wasn't playing.
Perhaps rather than hating the band for the music itself, people were sick of Nickelback being shoved down their throats by radio stations throughout the 2000s. While these days we consume music by choosing what we want to listen to on YouTube or Spotify, this luxury didn't exist.
Well, the radio still does exist.
In 2002,
but it's true.
Unless you had a specific CD, you were at the mercy of whatever the radio decided to play, and with every station blasting How You Remind Me all day, every day, it seemed Nickelback was inescapable. Well, this must have been
What is How You Remind Me?
great in
Have
terms
I ever
of
heard that
exposing
song?
Nickelback to the world. Perhaps it went a little too far. How many of you guys have unfollowed an influencer or a friend on Facebook because they post 50 different times per day? Or have you ever had a friend force you to watch a piece of media, whether it be a song, video, or movie, and because you didn't choose to watch it, it feels
Hold on. I'm gonna mute this audio for like 2 seconds. Oh my god. You remind me. This is terrible. I fucking remember that song. Actually makes me holy shit. Bro, I swear to God, next week all I'm gonna be doing is singing that song.
uncomfortable and you just want it to end. It seems as though this is how the world
like you
felt during Nickelback's war, as
sorry.
summarized beautifully in an article written about the band. The song became too big. It never stopped playing. It was everywhere. Its legacy is that it introduced people to Nickelback. In doing so, it became a signpost, a specific moment in time when you met the thing you hate. Now it's hated by association.
That's true. They rhymed sorry with story. That's incredible. That's a lyrical genius. It's a real Eminem. Basically like Eminem of the rock genre.
Now, in order for the song to have been getting that much airtime in the first place, some people must have been enjoying it. Yet Mike Kroger would go on to state that much of the success they achieved as a result of the song would eventually turn into hatred.
The time at which Nickelback began to suck started shortly after we started to sell millions and millions of albums. And everybody loves an underdog until they're no longer the underdog. And then once you're not the underdog anymore, that's when you start to suck.
Mike Kroger's theory that people hated the band simply because they were successful was certainly plausible, as a Finnish academic study on the hatred of Nickelback.
Why do you think that SunnyV2 chose this topic? You think he was just like listening to like Nickelback one day and he came across or he just came across some like random interview in his like YouTube For You page and he's like, and he just watched it. And he's like, I'm gonna make a fucking video about this.
Nickelback found that between 2000 and 2014, the more successful Nickelback got, the worse their reviews grew, which was supported by a user on Reddit who wrote, "The only reason that so many people seem to hate Nickelback is because of how popular they are, selling over 50 million albums worldwide."
Well, I guess that's kind of how it works. Like an individual. Usually, like, not everything is for everybody. So, like, an individual, like, music or whatever, you know, becomes too mainstream, and then people are like, "Oh, it's in my face. I hate this." But I mean, the amount of like hatred it receives is actually impressive. I think that they should win like a Guinness Book of World Records for that.
It didn't help that certain media outlets literally had a policy where they weren't allowed to write positive stories about Nickelback. Mike Kroger explained that he met a former journalist for Rolling Stone who had written a positive review of a Nickelback album while working for the media company, yet Rolling Stone never allowed the journalist to post it simply because it was positive.
And this journalist said, "Hey, I got to tell you a story." He was asked to review one of our albums, and he wrote a very, very detailed and well thought out review of the album, and it was positive. He took it to his editor, and his editor just said, I'm not going to print this, because we here at Rolling Stone are very anti-Nickelback. We do not like Nickelback. We can't write good things about Nickelback.
Do you think that was because of like a top-down policy because somebody really hated Nickelback, or do you? And what I actually think it is do you think it's one of those things where they don't want to like upset people? They're like, "Oh, I don't want to have like negative. We don't want people to have like negative backlash about Nickelback because they might think we're a bad company," you know?
And if this was the narrative being held by the media, it's hardly surprising.
Not staying at your hotel anymore, Rolling Stones, until you decide to print that article.
Surprising to discover that there have been countless other negative articles on the band. Although to be fair,
Corey Taylor says Chad Kroger is an idiot who has a face like a foot. What the fuck?
Some of them have certainly been a result of Nickelback's poor decisions. For example, in 2006, the Nickelback frontman was stopped by police for speeding in his luxury Lamborghini sports car.
I mean, bro, come on. But listen, have you ever rode like a muscle car or a sports car before? You can't help it. It just happens. You're driving, all of a sudden you're doing 90 and you thought you were doing like 40. Those things are fucking smooth, bro. You know what I mean? Andrew Tate was right when you're in that Bugatti.
A breath test found he had nearly twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system.
Oh, well, that part that part is inexcusable, obviously.
Along similar lines, in an interview with Playboy, Chad Kroeger bragged about once having drunk 13 Corona beers in a row, stating that he can down a Corona in 5 or 6 seconds. Although, while their drinking habits, along with their love for car chases, explosions, and big boobs, probably just made their audience love them even more, one thing
I can't believe that they supported the coronavirus.
that they would do in 2008 might actually qualify as the first thing done by Nickelback themselves to have a genuine impact on their reputation. In fact,
You know what the only thing I'm hearing right now is if Brian Posehn didn't make that joke, then Nickelback would have been like really big on TikTok right now.
this thing was so detrimental that the Finnish academic study we mentioned earlier anchored it as the main reason behind the band's poor reputation, and it began when they wrote a song by the name of Rockstar in 2005. 3 years after releasing the song, it was licensed to DFS Furniture for an advertisement, which was so
It was like you can't license it to a furniture company. Why would you do that? That is a bad move. All right, guys, we're gonna play this song, but you're not gonna hear it. You're just gonna hear me just rock out to it for 3 seconds. Oh, this song sucks. All right.
so terrible that it put a dent in the band's reputation. Nickelback's
why would you lease it out or whatever to a furniture store, a cringe furniture, unless it was Bob's. Bob's is pretty good, but outside of that, what are you doing?
Was, as mentioned previously, about metal, beers, and the same things Middle America likes. Therefore, licensing their music to a commercial that looked like this felt a little bit inauthentic.
Yeah,
now,
no
we
kidding.
can probably all agree that it feels like a bit of a stretch to claim that Nickelback's worldwide hatred came about as a result of one relatively obscure furniture advertisement. However, according to the Finnish...
See, this is the thing. Brian Posehn attacked everybody, but that furniture commercial, that attacks the fans. That is the most cringe shit in the world, especially if you're millionaires. What was the point? I get it if you're struggling, but like that's like an unnecessary sellout. You don't need the money. What the fuck?
Study, the issue, Antonin writes, is about the perception of authenticity. Rock critics like to think of themselves as protectors of originality, and they perceived Nickelback to be a bunch of sellouts, true to their money rather than the art. Perhaps it was less about them being in the background of a furniture ad, and more about them selling their music to the furniture ad in the first place. People perceive them as sellouts with zero standards. In addition to this, the Finnish study made the claim that fans were unhappy with Nickelback's perceived lack of originality. When you listen to Nickelback, you think a generic rock song not pushing the envelope. Nickelback is too much of everything to be enough of something. They follow genre expectations too well, which is seen as empty imitation, but also not well enough, which is read as commercial tactics and as a lack of a stable and sincere identity. The idea that Nickelback were hated for being a generic risk-free rock band has been theorized everywhere on the internet. In a Reddit thread attempting to discover how the band became so hated, one user wrote, "People hate Nickelback because they represent the idea that a record label can take any band, no matter how bad, and make them popular. The label can use clever
They're not that bad.
PR and good advertising to make loads of money off a band that is just mediocre. People don't hate the band nearly as much as they hate the idea that the band represents, which was followed
I feel like I feel like that's too deep. I feel like that person is just like that person doesn't like Nickelback, and then they decided that they had like a justifier for it. They're really not that bad or generic. Like they're decent. They're not super complicated. Why did I say it like that? They're not super complicated. They're not super complex, but like I think that's what people like about it. It's a little bit calmer. It's a little bit more like it's like a rock. It's like a country rock a little bit,
by a reply reading, "They're a mediocre band that has experienced precisely zero musical growth and exists purely as a vehicle to print money for record labels."
Bro, I mean, the whole point of being a fucking musician is to make money, and love the craft. But like, it's not that big of a deal. You're trying to make money. You got to cash that bag, brother. I get it. I'm just saying. They made a mistake doing a commercial, but damn,
They knew they were a mediocre band,
crazy.
didn't care about musical growth.
Do you think that Nickelback ever thought they were a mediocre band? Like, seriously, think of the most mediocre person that you know in your entire life, and then go ask them, "Hey, do you think that you're mediocre?" And they're all gonna say, or at least most of them are gonna be like, "No, of course not. No, of course I'm not mediocre. What do you mean? Of course they're not." You know what I mean? Like nobody thinks they're mediocre. I would if I thought I was mediocre, and I very well may be mediocre. It might be like, "Papa, you're mediocre. You're a fucking loser, whatever." But I don't feel that way about myself, because if I did, I would take a walk. I would take a very long walk off of something short. That's terrible. That's devastating to your confidence. Why would you think that?
On knowing what the plan was and had no problem with any of it. It doesn't even make sense to hate Nickelback for their music. It's not distinctive enough to be worthy of notice.
Wait, is Chad's ex-wife Avril Lavigne? Damn, I forgot about her. You know what memory I have when I think of Avril Lavigne? I think of this memory where my mother used to wake up really early in the morning when I was a kid and bring me to my friend John's house, and then her mom would take me and John to school. Because my mom would work really early sometimes, and I remember getting there early and John was still sleeping. And sometimes we would watch like music videos on TV though, and Avril Lavigne was on there. He's like, I love Avril Lavigne so much. But then the other thought that comes up is that when I would go to his house, I remember one time I tried to pick up his controller off the floor with my feet, and his mom yelled at me. I was wearing socks. I don't know why it was such a big deal, but I guess I could get it. So yeah.
It's carefully designed to be pointless and catchy. It's a product built to appeal to the lowest common denominator. It doesn't do anything wrong because it doesn't dare to take any risks. To put it simply, instead of Nickelback creating music that's risky and authentic to them, the band is perceived as having a reputation for putting out whatever music is guaranteed to appeal to the masses, yet it's hard to tell if this perception is even correct.
I doubt that's correct.
In an interview with Face Culture, Chad Kroeger discusses how they've experimented with a bunch of different types of music.
We definitely started off as a little bit of a heavier band, but we found fans in so many different places because we just wanted to write different kinds of songs. So we'd write a song that was way over here, and the fans would accept it, and then sometimes we'd write something really heavy, and the fans would accept that too.
Before explaining that each band member perceives the music in their own unique way,
everyone had their own different interpretation of it. One was political, one was religious, one was like corporate.
Which doesn't exactly sound like they were specifically trying to follow some kind of radio success formula. Maybe this point is just another reason the internet made up to justify hating them, because outside of the internet they claim that they're hated by no one. For example, a petition requesting
That's probably true. The internet's fucking insane.
that Nickelback not
I guarantee you that like 99% of the people who hate Nickelback, if they ever saw Nickelback, you'd be starstruck.
play at halftime during an NFL game racked up over 55,000 signatures, yet after arriving in the city to play the concert, the band stated that it was nothing but love from the fans.
Of course.
Halftime, what was it like?
It was very controversial filled, and far less so when we actually got there. Every single human being that we came in contact with in Detroit was like, we love you. We have no idea what this is all about.
Now, there was that one time in
Oh
Portugal
yeah. Hey guys, Detroit, best city in the world.
where they walked off stage after having rocks and bottles thrown at them, yet as an overall, the band has been wise in framing the
They were having rocks and bottles. I walk off stage too. What the
hatred
fuck?
as a long-term positive.
I've been really clear with my guys that all that hate has given our career legs. And that's the thing that scares me the most is if people finally stop hating us.
Damn. Addicted to the hatred, brother. I just hurt my fucking leg really bad. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down in the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.